Megumi. 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 Let me level with you real quick, bro. Why didn't you start with that? Before we open this review of chapter 171 of Jujutsu Kaisen, please do me a favor, leave your own list on the chapter in the comment section down below, leave a like, and subscribe if you aren't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, if you want to help your boy out, I do have a Patreon linked down below. I would greatly appreciate any support you could give me. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got Pencil here, and here we are to review chapter 171 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as Tokyo #1 Colony. I think that's 11, but we can just call this Megumi Fumbled the Bag, because, like, let's just hop into the chapter itself. So we open up, and we get to see the advent of Chimera Shadow Garden. Hold on a second. Okay, so yeah, last week's was just a typo. I knew something was off about that. But regardless, we open up with Chimera Shadow Garden. And I honestly love this opening page. One, because it combines, like, the chapter title into it and everything, obviously. But two, just because of, like, how menacing Megumi looks. Like, notably, the thing he summons behind him, I'm not gonna lie, it looks like part of a skeleton, like part of a nervous system. But I love the thing behind him is literally bleeding shadow, which is dripping on the floor and spreading out throughout the entire room. And I love how Megumi himself just has, like, one eye blotted out, one eye glaring straight forward. It's a menacing panel, you know what I'm saying? And I like that. I like it when panels, or at least characters in panels, give off just a menacing aura by simply being there and activating a technique. And I love what Gege did with this, where they essentially capture that feeling entirely. Then we get to see that Reggie, as he's about to get consumed within the Chimera Shadow, something happens, and he does this quick hand motion, and I think he clasps his hands together and then knocks them forward or something like that, or moves them forward, and he activates secret technique Hollow Wicker Basket. And Hollow Wicker Basket is apparently a prototype of the new Shadow style garden. I said Shadow and thought of garden, but the new Shadow style simple domain. And the interesting thing is that where has Reggie been? Like, notably, Reggie just seems like a demon. Like, straight up leveling with you. He doesn't seem like some normal dude. Because you can't just be this skilled of a sorcerer, right? Like, he's not using new Shadow style symbol domain. He made up his own. He's obviously a very competent fighter because he's outboxing Megumi of all people. And on top of that, he seems to have such great control of his curse technique. Like, was this man just a rogue? If people of this level were just roaming around in the shadows because Gojo was there, it just goes to show you how much of an impact Gojo had on the verse. Because if Reggie was legit just a modern sorcerer pre-culling game who just was this powerful but no one knew about him just because he was kept on the down low because of Gojo, jeez, how many other people are like Reggie level? Because the thing is, to be fair, we don't know fully about Reggie yet. He could have been like a prodigy just like Higuruma. But the thing about Higuruma was he didn't know he was a sorcerer until like the culling game started, or essentially maybe not since the culling game started, but like right around the time when the culling game started is when he found out he was a sorcerer. He was just an insane prodigy that leaped up in skill, created his own domain expansion, was a master fighter, like all that. He was explained to be a prodigy. Meanwhile, Reggie just comes out of nowhere with these high level techniques, this insane ability, and sure, while he hasn't shown a domain expansion, and who knows, he may not have one, it seems like on his own with this, just a secret technique that mimics the effects of a simple domain, his amazing fighting style, his deep understanding of his own curse technique and how to use it. He seems like a different level kind of being. I'm honestly interested in hearing his backstory, and that hasn't happened. And honestly, if you had asked me if I was interested all those chapters ago when we first saw this man, I would have laughed at you because I would have said no. But now I'm really intrigued. But of course, the thing is, as cool as his secret technique Hollow Wicker Basket is, that he's... Well, to be fair, simple domains can be learned by anyone, so this is probably just a manifestation of his curse energy. But still, the thing is, the frog tongues that come out of Chimera Shadow Garden go straight on through the barrier, straight on through the basket. And of course, Reggie is like, what? And the frogs just managed, like, I love how his reaction is so, like, mainly calm. Even though, it's not really calm at all. He's so shocked, but he can't really do anything because he's being tied down. But as is explained by plot, we see that domain amplification is a way to counteract a sure hit domain. Like, that's the way you do it. You shut down your curse technique in exchange for like this nice pseudo ability that allows you to shut down other curse techniques. And of course, domain expansions fall under curse techniques. So what Gojo and Hanami were doing were not only allowing themselves to bypass Gojo's infinity, but they were also allowing them to essentially make themselves immune to Gojo's limitless expansion. Well, actually, no, that doesn't, because if that's the case, why wouldn't? Well, actually, they probably did. They probably were using. But wait, hold on. Let me read this again. Let me just make sure, because Gege loves to elaborate, and I'm not the sharpest spoon in the kitchen shed. Okay. So at least from my understanding, the domain that Gojo was allowed into that wasn't shut down by Yuji yet, it was technically a domain. It was a barrier, which constitutes as a domain in a sense. And what what Jogo and Hanami did was they shut down their curse technique in order to activate domain amplification, which essentially allowed them to almost mimic the effects of a domain expansion without actually having to use it and risking themselves being overwhelmed by limitless void. So okay, that makes sense. But the thing is, we see that Hollow Wicker Basket and Simple Domains actually can't be used to counteract curse techniques themselves. They are specifically built to counter domain expansions and or neutralize them by nullifying the sure hit effect. However, that doesn't mean that they are invulnerable to curse techniques when such things are up. They're not actually protected that well from those. And what allows this loophole in Wicker Basket is the idea that Megumi's domain is incomplete, because he can't properly form a barrier and activate his technique, as we've seen before. So what he's doing is converting like the general area of the gymnasium into just a larger version of his curse technique. Since the barrier isn't like something he manifested out of his own curse energy, it's something he used the gym for, he's allowed to essentially just amp his curse technique while sort of creating a baby domain, or like a pseudo domain. Like, this isn't even the same kind of domain that Higuruma made. Higuruma made a domain that came without a sure hit effect, but it could still affect you. It still was technically a domain in a sense. Meanwhile, what Megumi's doing is it's kind of just extending the 10 shadows, as the chapter calls it, and it simply increases his potential capacity to 120%. So I'm a little bit confused on that, because it seems to have some sort of properties of a domain, because it doesn't just seem like 120% potential increase. Like, I don't think Megumi could summon multiple frogs at once, could he? And like all these different clones he's making, I feel like those are domain property but I guess so what Megumi's doing here, I wonder if Higuruma was doing this. No, but it was called a domain expansion. That's a different thing. Like, what Higuruma did was he did an old-fashioned sort of domain where the sure hit effect isn't a thing. Like, it's not as inherently deadly as modern domain expansions. But is that what Megumi's doing here? Does that mean Higuruma's domain expansion wasn't actually a domain expansion? It was just like an extension of his curse technique? Or was his an actual domain expansion? Because what is notable here is that Megumi does have to spawn the Shinigami and the clones before he hits Reggie. So does that mean, I guess I'm a little bit confused on what this is. I guess it's not a domain expansion, it's just a technique buff, but it has properties of a domain expansion just without the sure hit effect. So it's like an old style domain expansion. Let's just go with that. And then we get to see that Megumi, now that Reggie's smirk has decided to leave the building, he's talking a little bit of smack. And we see that the incomplete domain managed to catch Reggie completely off guard, because now he's essentially forced to fight just a stronger Megumi. And what the stronger Megumi does is produce, the thing is, Reggie calls them clones, and they seem to be clones because they're like comboing into each other. Because every single time a Megumi appears, it's before the attack is landed. So Reggie may be able to block one Megumi, but another Megumi pops up before he can really do anything and hits him again, and then hits him again, and hits him again. And the constant flash mindset. And obviously, you can't really guard well when you're getting jumped by 5 different people. And the thing is, Reggie goes to like try and counteract this. He tears off receipts, sacrifices them, and then gets some knives out. And as he goes to counteract this, the frog, I don't even know, what does the frog do here? I think the frog manages to, what the heck? Yeah, I don't know, that's a weird, okay, I get it. So what Reggie does is, since he's bound by the frog tongues, that's what allows Megumi to like commit. Oh, this is actually a really cool technique by Megumi. So he binds Reggie with the frog tongues, and then he creates the clones to start assaulting Reggie. So when Reggie's falling back and about to get slammed into the shadow, what he does is he summons the blades, cuts the frog tongues that are like locking him down, and then the moment he goes to regain himself, Megumi appears again through the floor, breaks his guard again, or not even breaks his guard, breaks his balance and drags him to the floor, only for Megumi to pop up another clone, which goes in to slice. But like Megumi was definitely going for the kill here, because he goes to slice Reggie in half with the blade. It's just that Reggie manages to block it just barely. However, Megumi, not missing a beat, manages to pop out the clutch with a whole nother blade, and well, no, not even a whole nother blade, a whole nother him, and elbow Reggie directly in the jaw. And this is where Reggie notes like the weakness of this specific domain, that these clones in Shikigami were formed before he was hit, and that means this domain or this barrier doesn't have a sure hit effect that is manifested by the curse technique. It's just the curse technique going a little bit crazier than usual. And notably, it seems like the increase, despite only being described as 120%, is greater. And it seems like what the benefit of this domain is that despite the fact that there isn't a sure hit kill you technique, since all counters to domains are based around those guaranteed sure hit techniques, if the curse technique isn't actually sure hit and you don't have a defense against that, and the user like Megumi could hypothetically attack you in different ways, such as using, I don't know, a good old blade or a couple or clones or Shikigami, you're good. Because techniques like Symbol Domain and Wicker Baskets, they aren't necessarily physical barriers that protect you against the effects of a domain, they just stop the surefire hit. And the thing is that Reggie realizes that if Max Elephant is brought out and drowns him and essentially erases all his receipts, which is what Megumi's doing right now. Megumi is currently slashing away at Reggie, getting rid of all of his offense options, even though it's going to make him naked. Reggie knows he's going to end in defeat, but notably, Reggie's obviously not going to let that happen, and he throws up a whole bunch of big old receipts, ones that look different than before. And what pops out of them is that they are activated by Reggie himself. Unlike the ones that Megumi was knocking off before, they do actually have a purpose. They were ripped off and thrown into the air, and they are revealed to be cars. Because as Megumi goes to summon Nue to try and stop the receipts from activating, it's too late, and 3 whole cars fall straight in Megumi's domain. And we get to see that despite the whole area being covered in some weird shadowy water substance thing, the weight actually has an impact on Megumi himself. And we see what Reggie notes. Reggie reveals that if he wasn't like reinforcing his footing with cursed energy, he was going to get sucked in. And it seems like everything within Chimera Shadow Garden is quite literally Megumi's shadow. So he has to support the weight of everything that's within this domain. And the interesting thing is that like if Megumi can control what goes into his shadow or not, right? Why couldn't he stop the cars from entering? Was it like too quick of a motion? Like could he not block them out? Because I mean, does that mean if Reggie didn't have the ability to reinforce his feet, he would have been trapped in Megumi's shadow, and he would just had to carry the weight of Reggie around, or what? Like I'm intrigued, because the thing is, if Megumi just absorbed Reggie, what would happen? Would Reggie be stuck there forever until Megumi let him loose, or what? I don't know. This is interesting, but we see the way that Reggie justifies this guess that worked out in his favor is that he only has one clunky weapon. He doesn't have any high-level curse-grade weaponry or multiple curse-grade weaponry because his shadow seems to have a limit to how much he can carry. So what Reggie portrays is the idea that the things that are in his shadow are Megumi and the blade itself. And obviously the blade, while heavy, probably isn't heavy enough that it could hamper Megumi, considering he's capable of wielding it anyway. However, 3 cars are a lot more than a blade. However, to be fair, I know I keep saying however, Megumi is actually pretty darn strong because he's holding up the weight of the cars too within his shadow. Sure, they went in there, but Megumi, he's still not flattened against the ground. He's still just kneeling, holding his ground a bit, and that's pretty impressive. So we get to see that with 3 passenger cars, Megumi is essentially holding 2.4 tons, and it seems like the clones don't have any effect on how much weight he can support, and he can still use the Shikigami, and they don't seem to have weight either, so they don't weigh him down. But the cars and anything else that goes into a shadow that he doesn't create or choose will weigh him down. And it seems like Reggie's essential goal here is to keep adding weight until Megumi collapses under the girth of his own shadow. And the thing is that Megumi explains that even if it's incomplete, a domain is a domain, which goes into the whole thing I was talking about, where this whole like, oh, just a curse technique buff seems a little bit off, because he uses the properties of a domain to just summon another Shikigami from the shadow, which would be Max Elephant. And now the competition becomes who will collapse first, Reggie or Megumi. And here's the thing, Megumi, right? Because that's the end of the chapter. Why did you not open with that? Why did you not just summon 5 different Max Elephants and drown Reggie? Worst comes to worst, you hop into your own shadow. Well, not even that. Worst comes to worst, you activate you activate your shadow, you call in Max Elephant, you drown Reggie, you almost drown yourself, then you deactivate the domain once all his receipts are useless, and then he's over. Like, I get what you were no, I don't. I really don't. Like, Megumi going in for the hand-to-hand combat thing, as cool as it is with all the different clones jumping Reggie at once, 1, you should have just stabbed him through the head. 2, why didn't you, like, there's no reason to hand-to-hand this man when you know at any moment something like that could happen. Or like the risk wasn't worth taking. You shouldn't have just one by one been slicing off the receipts. You should have gone full on for the drowning route. And even if not drowning, like, I doubt that you would actually drown. Even if you summoned 5 Max Elephants and had all of them surround Reggie and just blast him while he was held down by the frogs, I think he would have been done. And worst comes to worst, you sacrifice some clones. Like, stand on some clones in your shadow, have them keep you above the water level, and then have Reggie just being drowned by Max Elephant. As cool as the combat in this chapter is, this just, at least from my knowledge of Shadow Garden and what Megumi displays at the very end of the chapter, it doesn't make sense for him to not just drown Reggie, round start with the domain, neutralize all of his techniques, and then, if worst comes to worst, then hand-to-hand beat him down if need be. That's the only thing. That's the only criticism we have to give Megumi. Because for a really tactical dude, this was kind of like, it's weird to say, this sounds like a Yuji maneuver. Like, Yuji, if he had the ability to instantly end a fight or instantly negate someone's curse technique, he wouldn't do that. He would just throw hands with them. And true, it can be just as effective, but you would have saved yourself a whole ton of hassle, Megumi, such as carrying 2.4 tons of weight if you were a little bit quicker in calling on Max Elephant, since you just can. I don't really see why you wouldn't, but hey, I'm not here to judge Megumi. If Megumi were to drag me into Chimera Shadow Garden, I'd just be done. So let me not talk smack before I turn around and suddenly I'm Chimera. However, I still think this is a very solid chapter. As much as I don't like how Megumi like sort of fumbled the bag there with not using Max Elephant off rip, the combat in this chapter is really what saves it for me, because this is peak Gege essentially to me, because he activated the technique, he showed off a possible counteraction to the technique, only to break that counter with Megumi's smart thinking, and then have Megumi jump Reggie, which is the most hilarious thing ever. It created even more intrigue to how skilled of a sorcerer Reggie is, showed off really cool combat. It was a really good chapter. Only thing is, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, because the move by Megumi just wasn't, I don't see why. As cool as the combat scenario gave us, it does not make sense for him to not just end the fight here. Especially considering I doubt he's in the mood to like spare Reggie right now. Goal is to kill Reggie, at least assumedly. I hope he's not trying to spare him and get his points, because you might as well just keep it pushing, Megumi, because you're wasting way too much energy here. Even if this is a incomplete domain, you're still wasting a whole ton of cursed energy right now, and you don't know if there's just another sorcerer that's going to come along by and just jack you up for wasting all this energy. So this wasn't the most tactical move, but hey, I'm gonna let it slide. However, those are my thoughts on the chapter. Please tell me your thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you want to help me have a wonderful day, support me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. However, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off.